As a small biz pro, I saw we roll, using procurement, program and control. As a small biz pro, I saw we grow, using procurement, program and control. I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Ooh, yeah, I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Ooh, yeah, I'm a businessman, yes, I'm an entrepreneur. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Business Zone with
Crystal
and Coach Gilbert Buchanan, your small business paramedic. And today, folks, we're going to have an amazing show. We've got a very special guest that's going to share some great information with us today about this Project 2025. Guys, you're going to love this. But before we do that, in the meantime and in between time, co-host, how are you doing today?
I am great. I'm excited about our guest today because, this morning I woke up thinking I had a whole lot of work to do. And then she was like the miracle delivered to me today. So
The miracle baby.
yeah, because I'm excited that we're going to have this conversation. One of the things we had talked about in the early part of or in September, that we were going to periodically have conversations about Project 25 and how it affects us as business owners. Today, our conversation is going to be on the impact of employment and jobs. And our guest today is the HR and diversity equity officer, and she's going to really give us some insight on what that looks like. So we're excited about that. Far as my week, it has been a very busy week, but I did get some things taken care of, closed out some things that have been hanging over the head. So everything is working in accordance to my universe anyway.
You know what, though, co-host? What I learned about you is that if you don't have a lot of things on your plate, it doesn't seem like you're doing work. So I get that.
Yeah, that's probably my worker. It is not a workaholic thing. What it is I truly enjoy what I do. And because I truly enjoy what I do.
You've got that superwoman thing that you gotta have work to do. That's
right,
it.
Exactly. So I got that going on, and it is what it is. What can I say?
Hey man, you're doing a great job. People are loving you. They're falling in love with you every day. So hey, as a practitioner of what we do, if we don't have our clients and our audience falling in love with us, we're not doing our job. So you're doing your job, co-host.
That's true. That's true. So, but it's been pretty quiet. I haven't done anything. No, I don't think I had even any meetings outside of my home this week. I didn't. I no special events going on. I had to get my car smogged and work through all that stuff, just regular stuff. And then I'm getting ready to go out of town next month. So I'm trying to make all of that happen. So
co-host, I've been very selfish with you.
Right.
I forgot to ask you about your car, how it's doing, because I know you were trying to get it fixed and all of that, and I totally forgot because I was so enthralled in my
your car situation,
my own little issue with my car. I totally forgot to ask you, and that was really bad of me. So
no, we're good.
You're good?
Here's the thing, and our guest today is going to talk about equity, right? And I'm going to talk about equity as far as a woman versus a man, right? You go to a mechanic, you're a little woman, and they have no idea. I could be a NASCAR driver, but they don't know that. All they see is a woman walking in the door, right? And so automatically, you come in the door, and they're like, this is broken, and this is happening, and this is happening, and this is happening, and it's going to cost you millions of dollars, and you won't be able to get your smog checked, you won't be able to drive, and so you're supposed to fall apart, right? And like, I'm like, wait a minute. But with all the knowledge that I do have, because I have a brother that taught me everything I needed to know about cars, and I'm sure they still got me because they had me buy a housing for air filter for my air filter, which I had just had my oil change. So they would have told me that when I did that, but that didn't happen. But I had to bring my brother-in-law. Once I brought him up there, things like you need a new transmission all of a sudden disappeared into thin air.
But you know what? You know what though, co-host? Even though they try to punk you like that, you came out on top because I didn't do so well as you did. You know, they told, oh, you need a water pump. That's will be $1,600. I had to pay them 1,600. Then they come back and say, oh, you know what? Your transmission is going. And that's when I draw the line and say, I'm selling this thing, you know?
Yeah, no. I brought my brother-in-law. I was like, wait a minute. First of all, I don't have enough miles. I don't drive enough, first of all, in order for the transmission to go out. I don't have a manual. So and I can feel it. I know what that feels like. I know if it's slipping. So when we went back, I was like, I don't think that's the case. Yeah. I'm gonna go with the oil thing because you're actually showing me some leakage, but I'm gonna probably guess that leakage really came from when they changed my oil. But I'm gonna go with that one because I need my car back.
He figured you didn't know anything about transmission. That's why he's telling you that crap. You know, see, we know that when we're driving, if the car starts hesitating when you put it in gear and it's not speeding up when it changes gear, then you know there's something going on with the transmission. You've been dealing with this for years, so you're familiar. So now he's trying to pull that on you for you to go, oh my God,
right.
Transmission is not going to work. How much is it going to be, sir? Okay, let me pay you.
Right, exactly. No, I wasn't having none of that. So I told him, I said, you do all I need to do is get the smog passed. That's all I need. So get that light off and then we'll talk about something later on. So when I came back, they adjusted the light. I drove all over the place. And then came back on Monday and said, hey, the light's not on. I'm going to get my transmission. I'm going to get my smog. And it passed right then and there. So I would have spent that would have been $2,000-3,000. I wasn't even giving up those. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. I don't drive my car that much. I'd probably get 6,000 miles a year.
He didn't know he was dealing with Superwoman. He thought he was dealing with somebody else.
Yeah, right. Next time I'll go to the mechanic, rent a NASCAR outfit. That way they'll know.
Hey, co-host, I'm not promoting this product because I don't know anything about it. I've been noticing on YouTube they're promoting this little device for like $19.99 that you can put underneath your dashboard. Just plug it in, like a USB type thing. And it will diagnose your car and tell you what's wrong with the car, and how much it's gonna cost. So I haven't tried it. And I don't have these guys as sponsors for the show, so I'm not pushing their product on here. Audience, if you are listening or you're watching us today, I know nothing about this product. I have not tried it firsthand, so I'm not promoting anything here.
But maybe we can do that. Maybe we can
need to reach out to them.
That, but that's awesome. But I agree. So because I like that, but especially as a woman, that you need a hacking thing that will level the playing field.
Oh yeah, I saw it on YouTube, man. I said, man, this is amazing. Only $19.99. And it diagnosed transmission problem, engine problem, radiator problem, all those types of powertrain type issues. So
that's what you need, a cheat sheet.
Yes. For those of you who are just tuning in, this is the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. We're on every Friday from 3 to 4:30. And folks, if you're just joining us or if you've been joining us for all the weeks in the past, I'd like you to go to YouTube and make sure you subscribe to our channel. I mean, we've been doing great for a while now, and some of you didn't even know we existed. And then all of a sudden, recently, you guys are subscribing like crazy. So we want to thank you for that. We really want to thank you for the subscription. And tell your friends, tell your mom, tell your uncle, your grandma, all your business associates, all those wannabe entrepreneurs, you tell them about this channel. We'll definitely help them. And with today's guest on the show, guys, you're going to keep tuning in even more after today. So, co-host, you want to share with them that QR code
I will. I
so they
will.
can
So
go
you can
ahead
go
and
over to our YouTube channel, guys, the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, and hit that subscribe button. Or better yet, you can take a picture with the QR code with your camera, and if you're not watching the show on it, of course, and go over and hit the subscribe button. We would definitely appreciate it. We are excited because we've hit some achievements and reached
some
some
great
momentum
milestones.
and some milestones, and we are truly happy with where we're going with the show right now. So we do appreciate you tuning in, and please continue to do so. We will continue to bring some amazing um,
Guests
some
on our
amazing guests
show.
and information. So Gilbert, just so that it resonates, we are now we were really working to get to our 1,000 subscribers, and I know in the podcast world that looks really small, but for us that's not. It took us a while to get here, and we have a story as to why, but we're not going to share that with you. But I am going to share that we did the 16. We got our
Now
1,600
we're at
subscribers.
1,600. Oh,
Yeah,
my
so
Lord.
actually we're on our way to
That's what I'm
700,
talking about.
1,700. We're not too far off from the 1,700 space, and so we're really cool, jazzed about that. And last week, Gilbert, we hit our. Let me get to the other one here. We hit another milestone, which was pretty awesome. We got 40,000 views, but we still got work to do. But as
Well,
of
last week we were at 1,000, and today we're at 1,600. So,
yeah, right, exactly.
hey,
So we're really pretty jazzed about all of that. And so we just want to share that with you guys. So help us. We need you to help us continue to move forward. We do want to monetize this platform. And so, of course, YouTube has you do all jumping through all of these many hoops.
I
And
hear you,
so
man.
we're doing our best to hit do those all those little mini hoops they're putting us through. And we would love for you to share it with us. We bring some amazing content. So Gilbert and I are both been in this business for 30, well over 30 years
60 years all
each.
combined.
Yeah, 60. That sounds so old. But we were prodigies. We were child prodigies,
We've
man.
got wisdom. That's what it is.
We have wisdom, and we come here to share our knowledge. We're both business coaches in our communities. Um, each one of we have our expertise. Mine is accounting and finance strategies for small business owners. I also teach classes on being a successful entrepreneur, and both for adults and children, and really helping businesses really get off the ground if they're in their early stages, and then helping them scale to grow if they're in their later, if they've been in business for a number of years. And Gilbert, your expertise?
Oh man, I've been in this public service space for, like you say, over 30 years. I've worked with agencies such as LA Unified School District, LA Community College District, LA Metro. We've even worked with prime contractors such as Kiewit, FTR International, which is a brother company to Tudor Perini. Tudor Perini is one of the largest primes out there doing construction work for public works owners such as Metro and others. As a matter of fact, I'm working on a project at the airport right now that is being project managed, primed by Tudor Perini. That's an airport extension that we do labor compliance on. So,
Okay.
oh yeah, so I've been working with quite a few of these. I've been awarded the Latino Business Advocate of the Year award by LA
Awesome.
Business Journal and California Bank and Trust, and it's a real badge of honor for me, folks. If I talk about it, if I don't talk about this enough, I want to let you know that I'm really proud of this particular award because I was in a room of over 600 Latino consultants, and guess who they picked, folks? They picked
Ah,
me, the small business
awesome.
paramedic. So I was pretty thrilled about that because they saw what we were doing for small businesses with our back office, Small Biz Pro. We're using that to assess small businesses, making sure they're contract ready, business ready, and loan ready. So they see the value in it. So we're pretty excited about that. I'm sure when we bring on our guest today, folks, she's going to share in some of those ideas with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're also going to talk about the Project 2025, guys. Don't fall asleep on this. You need to stay awake and know what's going on because come 2025, a lot of you small businesses will be you'll be doing some different type of competing. So
And also, we want to make sure everyone understands we are less than 40 days, 45 days. I think we're probably about 42, 43 days before the election. Voting is imperative right now, guys. And not only voting for the president, which is extremely important as well, because as we're going to talk about Project 25 and how it's going to affect us as people, but most importantly, we need to make sure you're voting down line, because just as important as the president is in your local areas, it is vitally important that you get the right people. Pay attention to the judges and school districts and school boards and propositions and legislation. Read through them. Ask some people that are very much aware of what's going on. Don't just check boxes, guys. We are way beyond checking boxes. And so the more you can learn. So before we close out the show today, there's a number of my colleagues that are hosting town hall meetings on a weekly basis. One of them is going to be at the new townhouse, which is on on Ladera, in Ladera, on La Cienega and La Tejera. And they are doing town hall meetings. And last week they talked about Project 25. It's on Wednesday, every Wednesday evening. But this week they're going to talk about civics. What does it really mean? And then next week they're going to talk about the Electoral College. How does that affect the election? And then they're going to actually go and talk about judges. So very, very important, guys. This, I would say, the most important election season of your lifetime is upon us right now, taking place on November 5th. So we'll talk about that a little bit on the latter part of the show. But with that, Gilbert, are you ready to bring on our guests?
oh yeah, for sure. I have been ready since this morning.
Okay, so I am going to shift us and I'm going to bring her in and then move her into the place spotlight.
Into the spotlight role.
Into the spotlight and us to the side. Hello, Dr. Thatch.
Hello.
We are so excited today because we got a really winner right here, and she's gonna really she's like, oh my, she's gonna really inform us and just give us some information. So, Dr. Thela okay, Thatch stands as a beacon of expertise and innovation in the field of equity and transformation. Recently honored as the top chief diversity officer by Color Magazine, as the visionary founder and chief equity officer of Thela Thatch Consulting and her nonprofit Time to Dream Foundation. She boasts an impressive 20-year career devoted to human resource and equity strategies. So we're really excited. I'm going to not read her whole bio because she's going to tell us all about herself. And but that's just to give you the highlight, the appetizer. So she's going to give you the whole meal right about now. And with that, we want to welcome you, Dr. Thatcher, to the Business Zone. And we want to, and we're very appreciative that you were able to come visit us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Welcome to the Business Zone, Doctor.
So tell us all about you, the part that I didn't read, and one, I'd like to know the inspiration behind your name because it's beautiful and I've never heard it before. So
Thank you. Thank you. So I was born in East Orange, New Jersey. I've lived there most of my life. I'm a Jersey girl.
Okay.
And my mom is, her name is Thela.
Oh.
So she said that once when she was in high school, an angel spoke to her and said she would have a daughter named Thela.
Wow.
And so that's where my name, excuse me, originates from. I will say, though, that the past few years I've been very interested in my DNA and in my heritage. I recently did my DNA test, and I am 4% Senegalese.
Oh, okay. I can see it.
I know, Falani. So happy. I'm telling you, when I found out that I and my family could trace our ancestry back to West Africa, it was like I just felt born again because most of my life I just, said I was from Jersey. I just thought I was from Jersey. I know my family 4 generations ago were free slaves from Sumter and Chester, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
My great-great-great-great-grandfather was a freed slave. 1867. He was one of the first to build a church in Chester, South Carolina. And that was really as far as I knew. And I mean, I know we were captured and stolen from the motherland, but now my DNA was 74% West African Senegalese.
Oh, that's quite a large percentage. I think mine is not quite that high, but mine is from Nigeria.
Okay.
But I don't think 74%, because there's some Anglo there that takes up the other half of that. So, but Fort Sumter, is that where your people were from? Because isn't that where they had?
No, from Chester,
South
okay. Carolina, and then my husband, my partner, he is from Sumter. His family's from Sumter, South Carolina, and my family's from Chester, South Carolina.
Okay. All right. I think Sumter, though, was kind of during the Civil War. Wasn't that something to do with George Washington and the Battle of Sumter, something or another? Okay, right. I remember that from history lesson.
we were a part of all of that, I'm sure. Whether we were building their forts, cleaning their kitchens, sowing their crops. We were a part of that war, I'm sure.
Exactly. Last week we did a show on the amazing rise of Black people from slavery to today as entrepreneurs, and we kind of we covered that from that journey from being from post-slavery and how we had to use the skills that we had developed as enslaved people to actually creating businesses in that space. That was our show last week. So awesome. So give us some more history about you. You've not always been in HR, right?
No, I started my career in television at Fox Television. So really quickly, I was accepted into Keene University, where I studied broadcast journalism. And I will say I stumbled into college. I was a part of the affirmative action program called the Educational Exceptional Opportunity Program. I just happened to be walking the halls at East Orange High School, where me, Queen Latifah, Naughty by Nature, we all went to school same year.
Cool.
So I'm walking the halls, and I saw people waiting to go to a college appointment. And I said, what the F is this? Because back then I curse a lot. And, they told me that they were going to college. I said, okay, I could. Why didn't anyone invite me? And so, long story short, I was invited into the EEO program where I had to go through a 6-week boot camp. And the woman who helped me, there was one woman who stepped in and really saved my life and helped me to get financial aid. She enrolled me into this EEO program. And from there, I graduated top 10 in my class. And in 3 years, I secured an internship at Fox Television, where I would work there for almost 7 years as a field producer. And then I went to work for Bill Cosby.
And, really?
Yeah. So I worked in a lot of different entertainment spaces. And And what happened was I was doing writing, field producing, and I was working for what they call the Black News Show, the McCreary Report.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted me to help when they hired other interns. They would ask me to help them get their paperwork, help onboard them. At the time, I didn't know that's what I was doing, but I became that person that was the liaison to HR to help all the new hires, like production assistants that would come in. I would train them.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Was Fox different than it is today back then?
So, no. Let's just say one of the most pivotal moments in my career at Fox Television was the Anita Hill hearings.
Oh.
And so we covered that extensively, of course. But it was one of the first times that I visibly saw that women had rights in the workplace. So it wasn't until, to me, in my opinion, until the Anita Hill hearings began with the sexual harassment case that she had against Clarence Hill. Sexual harassment case. Thomas. I'm sorry. I don't know where I got Anita Hill. Sorry, Clarence Thomas. Thank you. And that's when we started to talk about sexual harassment in the workplace. So for that, I can say without, disparaging Fox, it was very much of a sexual harassment environment. It was normal for people to make comments about your body, to grab parts of your body. But prior to the Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas hearings, it seems like that instantly kind of put a microscope on that. so that's my experience working at Fox. It seemed like that's when things started to change.
So they actually did that in the workplace?
Of course. Yeah, they still do.
Wow.
Yeah, people are still being grabbed. We had a past president who admitted to grabbing people's private parts. I mean,
I can't remember working anywhere where that happened. And, I work at some nice professional places and I work at some basic places.
Well, they probably didn't tell you that it happened because it probably wasn't happening to you.
Huh? It wasn't happening to you. It was happening behind the scenes.
Actually, they grabbed my butt today.
Actually, I would have heard about it because those types of news, they circulate quickly around them.
No, not from embarrassed women who want to keep their job.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with her because back then, you needed your job, right? Because you didn't make the kind of money and you didn't have the kind of clout, and so you might not have said anything. You probably quit. You probably would, because you could get another job, so you probably would quit and never tell anybody about it, especially if it was coming from your boss or something. But isn't it interesting that so you worked in that area when that happened? And of course, now what has this been 30, 40 years later? And then everything, it's like the truth has come out about him, right? Justice Thomas. Now yes, he did do that, right? Before they spun it all over the place and you couldn't keep up with the spin. But today, with his behavior, you're going, we should have listened to Anita.
There's a lot of women and men that we should have listened to.
Wow.
It's interesting. When I was a production assistant, I was also a production assistant with Don Lemon. We both worked together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he ended up, of course, working for CNN. So yeah, we've seen a lot of things. And
so Don Lemon was at Fox too?
Yeah, he started off as an intern and production assistant at the same time that I was there.
That's probably why he's been so aggressive towards Fox when he worked at CNN, huh?
Well, when you work for entertainment companies like that, you do see a lot.
Yeah.
And I will also work for NBC briefly. I worked for MTV. I worked for a lot of different entertainment companies before I settled at Cablevision, where I became the HR. I started in recruiting there at Cablevision.
How come you never launched your own television program after being through those different types of entities?
Well, I never really had the luxury to do that. At the time where I was working at Fox Television, I had children.
Oh,
So
I,
you were
I
taking.
had children. I got pregnant. It was something about getting pregnant back then. So I got pregnant, and that's why I went into HR, because the entertainment business really wanted me to be there 24/7. I mean, I literally slept at the station. I was a Chiron operator,
Mm,
responsible
yeah,
for the
that.
graphics, for
Yeah.
the national weather, and all those things. And so there were only two people who did that type of Chiron programming. And so it just wasn't conducive to me having a small child at the time. But things are a lot different now. There's a lot. I remember one time I was working in production, and I was working with a stunt person called Bob Miner. So he's one of the first Black stuntmen. He actually did a lot of Eddie Murphy movies. And I just had my son. He was 1 year old. And they wanted me to travel to Canada to do stunts.
for how long? How long?
And you had just had the baby.
Exactly. And so, I mean, it sounds like it makes sense. Like, oh, I had all of these opportunities. But the reality is that's why I'm so passionate about equity, inclusion.
Yeah.
Because it's not, I mean, I wasn't going to get paid the same as a man.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to have daycare. I
Right.
wasn't going to have support. I mean,
Yeah.
I was really literally probably be sleeping in my car.
Mhm.
I'll share that side of the story. When I was working at Fox Television, I was barely making $12 an hour.
Wow.
Wow.
It cost me more to get to work on the train.
Mm-mm-mm.
I was working with people like, I never forget, I worked with Richard Rubenstein. His father's one of the richest men in New York. So I was the only Black woman on the assignment desk. I can't even think if there was any other Black woman. Okay, I'm thinking Christine Tomlinson was a woman of color. But my point is, there were people that had, influence and affluence. I was kind of from the hood of New Jersey, of East Orange, New Jersey.
Right.
I didn't have, and that's why it's so important that what you're doing. I admire the work you're doing, entrepreneurship, teaching people how our people of color, how to build our own, because you can be in the right place, but it may not necessarily be the right time if you don't have the right resources. And
Right.
I was 19 years old. I didn't have mentors. I didn't have resources. I didn't have all of that. So I was just a hustling, trying to make it day by day, and I have a lot of great experiences. But no, I wasn't able to start my own show. I do have a reel, though, that I did, like a reporter's reel. But
Oh, cool.
You still have it?
Oh, yeah, I have it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to see it sometime.
It's on my YouTube. I'll share it with you.
Yeah, we'd love
But I
to
would
see
imagine because the entertainment world is definitely the haves and the have-nots, right? And men the men in that space actually appear to have more rights than the women in that space. And women are kind of at the whim of the men, especially if they really want to advance in their careers. So is that kind of where the groundwork was laid for HR and equity? Because you just saw what you saw. Because you probably saw more in that environment than Gilbert and I saw in working in corporate America, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because it wasn't as obvious in corporate professional settings.
Right.
But I know the industry is a whole different kind of
animal.
Yeah. Well, it was in every industry I've worked in. So I've worked in entertainment.
Yeah.
I've worked in oil and gas.
Mhm.
I've worked in logistics, and it's very much clear lines of discrimination in gender and race specifically.
Wow.
It's always been that way, and it still is.
So as a result of that type of conduct, is that why you venture into HR for you start doing research on rights and all of those things on the laws, right? And then you cross over into HR?
That's exactly right. And one of the most powerful positions I could have is hiring people in recruitment.
Right.
And so I started in recruitment working at Cablevision. I was hiring field service reps, cable CSRs, customer service reps, and cable operators, right? And so the field service techs, I was able to recruit from my community. At the time, the call center was in Newark, New Jersey. And so I was the first person they see. I'm the one helping make sure that they know how to answer the questions, make sure they can have a fair interview, make sure they're being considered for a job. Jobs mean money for our community. Jobs are super, and if they're not seeing someone like me, if I'm not the first point of contact, it's really difficult to get in the door if you have a history of, if you have a bad resume, you have a criminal record. All of these things should be viewed case by case. As a matter of fact, in California, we have fair chance hiring, where it's against the law to not offer someone based on their background. But people don't know this. And so I started to learn that there was a level of power in human resources because we knew where the bodies were and we knew how to get people in the door.
Right.
We help advocate for people, for me specifically, women and people of color, to keep their jobs, because it is really easy for corporations, and I've worked for many of them, to make assumptions about us as women, people of color, Black women, and find reasons to terminate us from our employment.
For those of you who are listening or watching, this is the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. We've got a very special guest here today. This is Dr. Thela Thatch, and she is the Chief Equity Officer. I love that. Chief Equity Officer and HR practitioner.
Yeah.
She's written multiple books, guys. Well, one, right? For now, one.
3 books. I have 3 books, but this is my most recent book, The Diversity Dilemma.
So she's got the most recent book, which she's going to talk about a little bit from now, folks. So please stay tuned in. You're going to learn a lot about diversity and equity. You're also going to learn a lot about Project 2025, which you really need to know if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a woman, and if you're a minority. So, Doctor, tell us a little bit about why they brought you into diversity, equity, and inclusion. Tell us about it.
So I moved here from the East Coast to accept a dream job at a very large entertainment company that I will not name on air. However, you could probably check it out on my LinkedIn and figure it out. But I was hired to be the regional HR manager for the West region. And while I was there, I was getting lots of comments, complaints from people, all types of people, not just women and people of color, queer people, all people, that they felt that the organization wasn't equitable, that there weren't programs to support people from diverse backgrounds. And so I risked my job, risked my career, and started kind of a movement. And long story short, I became the head of equity and inclusion. I created the very first diversity, equity, and inclusion. And why, to answer your question, was because I didn't have it. I was being treated unfairly at times. I felt like I had no power. I felt like I was, I just wanted to have diversity, equity, and inclusion. I just wanted to be supported in my own job. And it literally was a true story. And I'm getting ready to have dinner with this person tonight, so they're still my friend. That person told me if I talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, I would get fired, that they would put me on a list and that they would fire me. And I think, as an ally, she's a white person, she was trying to protect me because she knew that there wasn't a lot of support for equity and inclusion, and initiatives. And so I just thought she was having a bad day. I kept pushing forward. I put together some task force. I pulled together all of the people that I knew who believed in equity and inclusion. And I purposely say equity all the time because there's a difference between equity and equality. So I was looking for equity. I wanted to be paid fairly. I wanted to be promoted fairly. I wanted to be spoke to respectfully. And there was a large amount of people in my organization who felt the same way, especially women. At the time, women were not being paid the same.
Do you know why? Do you know why you did that?
Why?
Because you're a direct descendant of West Africa. That's what we do. We're defiant. We will never be slaves. We will never be slaves. I'm telling you.
I agree. I agree.
And I think also
Crystal is the same way.
Yeah. But I'm going to even go with, yes, definitely from the diaspora. But I think also when you have parents that were raised in the South,
Yeah.
and great grandparents, or third, two or three different generations that actually came through slavery. Where I think it's different when you're on the grounds of the land where slavery actually took place, and you know this, right?
Oh, yeah.
You see, and you have to learn how to interact with these people until you can't interact with these people any longer, and then you have to migrate out so that you can breathe. Because it just feels like you're suffering from being able to breathe in the South, especially if you're aware of your history. And I think it creates a fight in us that will not allow you. One is, to me, is always a disrespect for my ancestors that lived through slavery. Is if I don't speak up, then I'm not honoring what they went through. And I always say, if we're sitting here today, we have some strong ass ancestors for them to survive what they survived, and for us to be breathing here on this earth. That's kind of my theory. It may not be a justifiable theory, but that's my theory.
That's it. And I feel my ancestors speaking to me every day. To much is given, much is expected. And there was a time in many times in my career where I had to make a choice if I was going to leave that job. I knew I was going to be let go or fired or penalized or ostracized, but I had to make a decision. And then it's really hard to sleep at night when you're not doing the right thing by your people. One of the things I talk about in my book is, I was being groomed to be a Black female overseer. So we see this a lot in human resources and chief human resource officers. A lot of times we have a lot of Black women in HR roles because they want Black women to control the rest of the people. And they want us to keep everybody. They see us as nurturing, and they're like, let's go send her to keep everybody calm and say what they want to hear. And I didn't know that was what was happening until I was in there like, okay, so they were training me to keep others in check. And I didn't realize that. I thought I was being treated as an executive because I had a master's in business at the time, I had an MBA, I had over 20 years of HR experience. No, I was a good person to have up front to represent all people, and especially to keep Black people in check. They would deny that, I'm sure, but I know at one point, my point is, even the Black people in the organization, as I was pulling them together to talk about inclusion, they would call me an Oreo. They would call me an Aunt Jemima, Aunt Thomasina. And then I look back, they were absolutely right.
Because see, the thing about it is you were subconsciously doing it because you didn't realize what you were doing, because this isn't the first time this happened. This is a recurring theme among our community. Back in the early 60s, they did the same thing where they had the government came in, and then they offered the Black women in the household money, not a lot of money, like $50 a month, right? They offer them that to get the husbands out of the home so that they can control the women, the message. And then these women will talk to other women, and they'll quickly drive the husbands out of the household. Then the government came in and said, these Black men are deadbeats. They don't take care of their kids, when they're the ones who start that campaign to do that kind of stuff. So this is just a recycling thing, man. So
it's a page in a playbook, and I love Isabel Wilkerson. If you read her book, Cast.
Oh, awesome!
There is a formula.
Yeah.
That is used in the United States, and that's where we get into Project 25. We get into number 45. I mean, everything that you're hearing is just a replay. Yeah. It's just a formula that's over and over. That's been since the beginning of our time here in the United States.
This was a great transition to the Project 25. I love it.
And it's that I was telling Thela Thela
You got it. You said it right. Thela.
Okay.
Delay.
I was telling her earlier, I was listening to a YouTube channel, and it was actually Roland Martin, and they were talking. They were doing some hearing in the House, and they just no problem at all saying, the Haitians should have stayed in slavery for another 30 years because it would have benefited them to acquire more skills and so forth
That
and
is
so
so
on.
crazy.
And I'm like, and everybody's like, did he just say we should have stayed? They should have stayed in the slavery. Yeah, like they did in Martin and Saint Martinique, because they learned how to adapt and be more simulate. Like, what the heck are you talking about, dude?
Man. That is
30 more years.
I just have to tell you, when I was working, one of the main things I did as an equity leader was create employee resource groups or business resource groups, and no judgment, because we always say, we're at a different place, everyone's at a different place. But I never forget, and I doubt if this woman's even listening to this podcast, but if she does, she'll know who she is. But there was this white woman, she was an ally, and she told us in a group of people that she thought that Black people came over here through Ellis Island and that we all took tickets to get here.
wow. That's what they read about.
When she sleep doing I know they don't really touch much on American history, but when she sleep doing that class.
Here's the thing. I share that because there probably was no class.
Well, actually, the reason she's probably saying that, because they've been pushing that point that most people who came here, they came through Ellis Island, because all of the others who came that way, they're not like us, right? It's usually people from the European nations who came that way. But we didn't come that way. We came on the Black Star Liner.
Exactly. So when I was able to educate her in the group about how we came in the bottom of ships, how we died, she cried. Mm-hmm. She had never in her life, but you have to think about this, and this is just something random I'm going to throw out. The movie Roots changed the way Black people saw slavery in America.
That is true. That is very true.
Black people didn't know that how we came here. Okay. Yeah. So the media is powerful, and we can't assume that everyone is at the same starting point, right? And people don't. So the opportunity to be on your show, the opportunity to talk and educate, that's what it's about for me. Yeah. Because we can't assume people even know our history, how we've even arrived here. And then we have some people who believe that Black people have always been in the United States. Yeah, and some Black people have always been here. And so we can't forget about that experience too.
Exactly.
Between the three of us, when others talk about Americans, like they say, yeah, that person is an American, they're not talking about us. They're talking about the colonizers. You see what I'm saying?
Well, today, yes, they're not even thinking of, because the actual Americans.
Yeah, that's who they're calling Americans. And, it was so amazing. It really hurt my heart, because I was dating this lady, right? She's Latina. And she's saying, yeah, I saw this man and he was saying this. And I say, who is he? Where is he from? She said, oh, he's American. I'm saying, American? What do you mean he's American? Oh, yeah, he's white. I'm going, oh, my Lord. So it has filtered down to the lower levels as well. A lot of people who are foreigners, everybody, they come here, they think, okay, Americans mean this classification of people. So we got to do our job to educate. And Dr. Thela, I have a link I want to send you, a YouTube link from a fellow professor. I can't remember what university she's from, but Crystal, I sent it to you last week on our show.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
You looked at, did you check it out?
I had actually seen her before when she was talking about, because she has a book out, and
yes.
And this is the thing, and this is what she talks about, and I'm sure Thela says the same thing. most people stay within the culture of the people that they are familiar with, right?
Yes.
So, black people are they socialize with people that look like themselves, would have similar interests. Same thing with Jewish people, same with Asians, and same with white people. Now, as we gotten more, living in cities that are more diverse, like I grew up with on a street. When I was a little girl, I'm from upstate New York. I'm from Buffalo. And when I was a little girl, I was right in the hood, right? So everybody I saw was people that looked like me. But when I turned, we bought a house a little further away from where I grew up, and it was a smorgasbord of people from all cultures. So that kind of helped me develop an understanding of other cultures. My neighbors were Italian. One was from Lithuania. There were some Germans. There were black people. There were some Indian people. There was Italian people. There was just a whole smorgasbord on the street that I lived on. And when I went to high school, same thing. So when I came out here, I was pretty comfortable. But the difference was when I came out here, people have on the East Coast and in the South, and I'm sure you can say this, Dr. Thatcher, that on the East Coast, exactly how people stand, right? They don't bite their tongue on what they like.
They don't sugarcoat anything.
They don't sugarcoat. New Yorkers definitely
black or white, right?
Yeah, New Yorkers don't know nothing about sugarcoating anything, and Southerners are very much who they are, right? So you weren't confused about that. Come to California, you peeling back the onion, you're like, whoa, how did I miss this piece? But they're better at hiding it here than they are in other cultures, in other places across this country. But I know my sister, when we started celebrating Juneteenth, she's a commissioner for in a property assessment board, and they were the Juneteenth, and we're now celebrating it, right? And so this white lady says, "What's Juneteenth?" And so my sister goes to explain what Juneteenth is, and she goes, when she told her that they didn't tell them that they were freed until 2 years later, she went, "That's horrible. How did that happen?" She was devastated that she goes, "They didn't tell them? How could they not tell them?" She was more upset than we would have been upset because but it's interesting. But like you said, this information is not public knowledge in their own circles.
Yeah, this professor, man, I'm telling you, every time I can't stop watching it because I learned so much, Doctor. She broke down the whole slavery program and how it works for the others and make them rich while keeping us, confined in a certain type of way, because even when they were freed, they still confined them because now they made them sharecroppers. And sharecropper didn't mean that they get paid. They just give them living conditions to live under for free. Well, it seem like it's free, but they have to work for it. You see what I mean?
Oh yeah. Well, again, that's a lot of the work that Isabel Wilkerson talks. I'm reading her book now, The Warmth of Other Suns. She goes into the Black migration from the South and just the challenges. I mean, anytime we would try to leave the South, they would create new rules, making it illegal for us to even cross the county line.
Exactly.
But just believe when I tell you to pay attention, because, and I am not a conspiracy theorist, I am a realist. What is real ID? What is real ID? Have you heard of real
ID? Yeah, real ID, and I refuse to get it because I keep.
Well, if you don't have real ID, you're not going to be able to fly domestically on an airplane.
Yeah.
Right.
And that same ID can be used to keep you from crossing county lines. So all I can say to people is pay attention, because there's a reason that they want you to have a specific ID. And real ID and passports cost money. And so typically poor people will not be able to pay $300, $400 to get ID. And so they won't be able to move freely across the country. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, right. That's the whole point with the Green Book, right? Is that they kind of had checkpoints and you had to know where you could go. The real ID, you're absolutely right. I got the passport card. And when I was at the DMV, I was like, okay, so tell me what's the difference between a passport card, which is issued by the United States federal government, part of the passport system. Why do I need a real ID? So she's like, well, you really don't. Okay, well, then I'm not getting a real ID. I'm going to use my passport card.
You'll be able to use your passport card. But here's the thing. A passport card is for the rich.
Yeah.
Rich people have passport cards. Rich people cannot afford a passport card.
Right, exactly. No, you're absolutely right. They're monitoring you.
Exactly.
And I believe those cards are coded. So when you go to certain checkpoints and they scan it, but if you have a certain nationality, there's a code beside it.
Oh my goodness. I went somewhere last week and the woman was checking me in and she said, oh, you were born in New Jersey, right?
See?
She can tell by my social security number because it's all
That's
coded.
true. That's true.
And now with the TSA checks, they have, and I don't mind because I am who I am. But when they check your retina scan, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So they are tracking all of us.
Exactly.
So tell us what you know about the 2025 project that leads into this that we're talking about right now, that really is trying to put a clamp on diversity and equity inclusion.
Especially from the employee, because I think as entrepreneurs, we have a little bit more leeway because we're kind of controlling how we make our money. Of course, if we want to,
co-host, I would not say that because we may control how we go after our money, but we don't control how that money is awarded to us. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, through procurement. Yeah, through procurement opportunities, for sure.
Well, I'm going to keep it real simple because that's my goal. Because entrepreneurs, small businesses, large businesses, we are all held accountable to the same federal and state laws.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Laws is what moves. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about laws. We're talking about policies. We're talking about bills that make laws.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pausing for dramatic effect to let that sink. Everything is about law. That's the only way we are not working on a plantation right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We have rights. Now, these rights are only what happened. When did we get these rights? We got these rights in the 60s. We were marching for our civil rights. When our ancestors, when our family members were hosed down, chased by dogs, eaten, hung and strung up on trees. This was not a long time ago. This was less than 60 years ago. And 60 years ago, we had Title VII of the Civil Rights Act that became a law signed by Lyndon B. Johnson. And everything we know that's the heart of everything we have right now.
Right.
Harassment laws, workers' laws, OSHA, equity pay, equal pay, name a law. It is stemming from Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which is why we have that law. And entrepreneurs, you are held accountable to those laws. So under that law is the creation of pregnancy laws, and the creation of overtime laws.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, and in the entrepreneurship space, there's an expansion of that same law, which brought about the DBE program in 1978. That same law, Title VII.
Exactly. So from Title VII, we started to have expansions because it didn't cover everything. We've seen this in the past few years. It starts to cover transgender rights.
Mm-hmm.
It covers overtime protections.
Mm-hmm.
It covers benefits. It covers Head Start, daycare, funding, you name it. It's all under that. Yeah. So when you think about Project 2025, first of all, I just want to say, based on my research, people will say that number 45, our 45th president, does not support Project 2025.
Oh, but he does.
True or false, we need to know what it's about. And the Heritage Foundation is the creator of Project 25. So
Mhm.
go to project2025.org, educate yourself. However, the Heritage Foundation has been an advisor and a consultant to our past president, number 45, 45th
Mhm.
president.
Right.
So if this Project 25 goes through, it will allow the president to roll back these laws,
Mhm.
to edit them without a vote, to
Yeah.
edit them as however the president sees fit.
Just like they did with Roe versus Wade,
Just
man.
like there you go. So that's the simple version.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things they're looking at in Project 2025 is getting rid of overtime. So now we
Wow.
have people who will not be eligible for overtime. So you're making minimum wage. Let's say you're making $15 an hour. If you work more than 8 hours in a day, or if you work more than 40 hours in a week, you will not get any additional pay.
See?
Why?
So,
Because it benefits large businesses. It will save payroll
Yeah.
dollars, right?
Yeah.
So go ahead. What were you going to say?
basically, but you still, because there are some companies require overtime, right? It's just part of the whole makeup of how they do business. So
Mhm.
you're basically saying they eliminate overtime pay. You just won't get paid for the time that they enforce you to stay there.
Yeah, they'll probably give you a day or two off. That's it. You don't get paid for it though. You see what I mean?
You don't have to do that. All of these things that we're talking about that seems to be natural rights, they're not. Like, you having a holiday is not a right.
Yeah.
It is not required by law that you pay someone to take a day off or have holiday. Like Juneteenth is a federal law, but it's not required for people to take the day.
Yeah.
Like, you can't force an employer to give Juneteenth off. They still have, it's a federal holiday. So a federal company will have to take that day off.
Yeah.
But most
But
of the
not a state
not a
government company or
not a
private.
private
Yeah.
business, right? But you have laws like overtime, which is through the Fair Labor Standards Act, which is a law. You don't have a choice. So if you hire someone today, whether you're a small business, a large business, an entrepreneur, by law, you have to pay them overtime if they work more than 40 hours a week.
Right.
So the point is that law will be taken away.
Mm.
So no one is forced.
I even heard or read actually, as we've been preparing for it, that even the 12-week maternity leave is they're going to take the salary that they would be providing you. They're going to give you your 12 weeks for maternity, but they're going to take the cost, the salary from that, and take it off the back end of your Social Security.
Wow.
Okay, well, let me just clarify that the Family Medical Leave Act is an unpaid leave. So
Okay.
you don't get paid for family medical leave unless the benefits is created by that organization. What the Family Medical Leave Act does is protect women specifically and people who have issues with their family. It protects them from losing their job. So you get 12 weeks of job protection.
Job protection.
12 weeks of money, because they typically make you use your vacation or.
Okay, I see.
So there's that again, and I'm glad we're having this discussion because there's all these little laws that most people don't even know about until they need it, right? And so, yeah, family medical leave could be on the table to be cut. Pregnancy, disability leave could be cut. I mean, any of these laws that protect your civil rights can be taken away.
I guess it doesn't. I'm not. Well, I mean, nothing's rational anyway with all of this. I mean, obviously, we want force women to have babies, which would keep them out of the workplace because they'll be having babies, right? And that should be your job, is taking care of babies and not interfering. It just sounds like to me there is this population of white men that just are completely intimidated by women.
Well, it's really interesting because there's a population of white women who actually support them. And
Well, they always do. They are always voting against their own best interest.
Of Black people who also support this,
Really?
This agenda. And yeah, so I have this quote in my book on page 101. It's from Tricia Hersey, who I love her because she talks about the NAP ministry and how rest is resistance. But the quote is, "Our labor historically has been used to make the lives of white women less hectic and more relaxed." And when you think about all of these different laws and different policies that are in place, it's really set up to benefit those, the white, hetero, normative people that are currently in power. So we have a lot of interesting things happening because although we do have a large amount of white, male, heteronormative people in power, we're also starting to see a lot of, and it's so interesting you were talking about Latinos, we're also starting to see a shift in the Latino perspective on some of these laws and their support for Project 2025 too. I mean, a lot of, we're seeing a lot of people from the Latino community who believe that some of these rights should be rolled back. And it's a really interesting and strange, like you were saying, kind of dichotomy, because at the same time you're saying Latinos are sneaking into the country.
Yeah.
But some of these same people of the same heritage are the biggest supporters of this narrative.
Because
I can't say I understand it either, but maybe you can.
It just. I mean, we're a progressive country. At one point, the world power. Now we're pushing ourselves backwards into back in time, and it just makes no sense, right? I mean, you want to be a world power. China and Tokyo, Japan, all of these countries operate moving forward into the future. Here we're trying to go back. Why? It makes it's just not logical.
See, the thing is, co-host, it doesn't make sense to us, but it makes sense to them because then it gives them control. Remember back in the 60s and before that, they had control. They control the laws. They control everything. We really didn't have much of a say. I mean, we could talk among ourselves in communities and in churches and all of that, but no one was listening. But when the laws were enacted, then they had to start listening and paying attention, because if they don't, then the attorneys will step in and they'll litigate things. You see what I'm saying?
People started winning lawsuits.
Yes, exactly.
Companies started paying. I mean, we see this with the Me Too movement, with the millions of dollars that were lost from organizations when they faced sexual harassment charges.
Yeah.
And I just want to add, Coretta Scott King said, and that's a paraphrase of her quote, that each generation has to fight for these rights to stay in place. It never ends.
Yeah.
Right.
We think, and many people thought when President Obama was in office that we had arrived, right? They're like, we all know that's not true. We also saw the pressure and the pushback that he received when he was in office. And so, every generation has to continue to be aware and make sure we fight for equity locally. And so someone said, is Project 2025 good or bad? What's the key points of it?
That's great. Go for it, Professor. Tell them.
Well, the short version, because there's key point. I mean, if you're looking at it from the aspect of a global organization and you want to save money on payroll and you don't want people, we're a capitalistic society and we want to monopolize on that, then yes, it's good, because big businesses are going to save money. They're not going to have to give you time off. They're not going to have to pay you overtime. But for the everyday person, the everyday worker, which the United States is, the majority of us are everyday workers.
Right, exactly.
Millionaires.
Right.
Yeah.
It's bad. Because it's rolling back your civil rights. The whole point is, although Martin Luther King is a Black man and he marched for Black rights, every single one of those Black rights has opened up the door to protect all rights.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's what people don't understand. Civil rights protect all of the citizens in the United States of America.
Yeah, it wasn't designed just for the black people. It has to be everybody. So white
Yeah,
women benefited from it. Asian women benefited from it. The poor benefit from it, but they want to make it appear that it's just us benefiting from it, but it's not. It's there.
white,
Everyone is
white
benefiting. In fact,
men.
they probably benefit from more than we do.
Yes. So we have people with disabilities, which is just, I mean, how many? 1 out of 3 people have a disability.
Right.
They are protected under these civil rights.
Yeah.
And they're
Right.
protected in the workplace. Again, you talked about family medical leave. That protects you. You have the Americans with Disabilities Act. That all stem from Title VII.
Right.
This is all of these laws that people fought for, rolling back our civil rights
Like Roe versus Wade, that's the first one. The second
Um,
one will be the MBDA program, which is Minority Business Development Agency program, which is a program that supports minority businesses so that they can compete in the entrepreneurial marketplace. Also, the DBE, which is Disadvantaged Business Program, they're creating an equal playing field for disadvantaged businesses. So Project 25 will kill that. So firms that are considered or classified minorities, women, veterans, and those
veterans.
types of businesses will be suppressed. They won't have a seat at the table, William. So that Walter. So that's what that's about. So I just wanted to share that with you and
and
many of the
in addition to the right to vote, the
yes.
right to a fair trial, the right to governmental services, the right to public education, the right to, as Dr. Thatch was saying, employment, the right to housing, the right to use public facilities, and the freedom of religion. Those are your civil rights. And so just
Those are just
imagine,
some of them.
as there's some of them, and it also prevents discrimination of race, color, origin, sex, and religion. So just imagine that was us. So to make it clear as rain, is that was us as slaves. We were 3/5 of a person. We were property of another human being. We had to do, we had to perform. We couldn't read, we couldn't write, we couldn't do anything. We were totally like pets, actually, and they probably got more rights than we did as slaves. So that's what that looks like. And I know in today's age, we don't think it's possible to enslave people, but there is. It was also not thought to be possible when Hitler murdered 6 million Jews either. They didn't believe that either. So we have to recognize that the diabolical thought process of people that feel that they're more privileged than you, that's a real thing with them. And they feel that they're the superior human beings on this planet and everyone else is here to do their bidding. So losing your civil rights here in America would mean you literally need to find you a new home. That's basically the real deal right there.
So Walter said, isn't abortion and Roe versus Wade an initiative of Margaret Sanger, who instituted it to exterminate black folks?
So I think he's talking about Planned Parenthood. It's Margaret Sanger.
Yeah, that's
I mean, here's the thing. I think everyone should educate themselves so they can make their own decisions.
Right.
If you're gonna, this is what I dealt with in diversity, equity, inclusion in corporations. They would tap me on the shoulder and ask me, as a Black woman, to help them with inclusion and equity initiatives. However, when I would share my concern as a Black woman, they would do this thing that we now understand. I'm so grateful for the vocabulary called gaslighting.
Right.
We don't need to talk about Margaret Sanger, no disrespect. The reality is, I'm telling you, I'm concerned as a Black woman. Crystal's telling you she's concerned
as a Black woman.
Gilbert's relating. I mean, we're not just, paranoid. We're not scared. We're not, trying to create a right. We're telling you that your civil rights will be compromised. It is possible because there is a plan. If you go to the website, project2025.org, which will allow the president to immediately go into their position and roll back certain civil rights. So what do you need to do? You need to educate yourself and figure out which civil rights would they be able to roll back and how can I prevent that from happening? I promise you, whether you're white, Asian, Latino, it affects you because as an HR person, I have dealt with thousands, I am not exaggerating, and thousands of people from all walks of life who hang on to these laws to protect their jobs. Without jobs, you don't have money.
Yeah.
When you don't have a job, you will not survive in this capitalistic society called the United States. So this is why workers' protections were put in place. Think about the unions. How many people died to make sure there were unions in place? Why did that have to happen? Because they had no rights. Do you think they just gave us rights because it was a nice thing to do? No, people died to make sure we have these rights. And so now we're talking to you as calmly as possible to say we need to make sure we keep these rights. Now, if you don't think they'll be taken away, then you have no worry or no concern. But we know that there is always an opportunity for them to be taken away. We always have to stay alert because none of these rights were given to us. People died and risked their lives and lost their lives. Blood was shed and we have to fight to keep these rights, period. There's really no debate. Yeah. Every generation has to fight to keep these rights. We've already seen, like you said, Roe versus Wade rolled back.
Yeah.
Now, shout out men who have serious health issues who may die because abortion may be illegal in their state. What do they do if they have a tubal pregnancy that's going to blow their it's just going to blow their innards out?
Right, they're going to die, or they're having a baby that is going to compromise the health of the woman. Then they're going to die.
Just die.
And they're going to die. And then the other part, and this is the part that really bothers me the most, it is having a baby is not the full responsibility of the woman. She doesn't get pregnant by herself. She gets pregnant with the aid of a man. But he is never put to a place of accountability because she's the one. And I said this the other day on another show that I was on. There's a saying it asks, is the pig committed or is the pig involved? Is bacon committed or is bacon evolved? Right? So pigs are involved. Bacon is actually committed because it's the byproduct of the pig, right? So if I can't get pregnant by myself, even with IVF and all of that sort of stuff, it literally requires the sperm, right? So if you're enforcing me or taking away the right from me, then maybe we should take a right away from you that you're neutered until it's time for you to have children. When you get married, you get unneutered. So, ouch. Because if we gonna do this, we gotta have equality in this.
We need to create a bill, for male neuterization.
Right, because if you gonna force me to get pregnant and have babies, whether it's through incest or whatever the hell it's through, but the man ain't been involved. No, he need to be neutered too, and then snip back a little vasectomy, and then when he gets married, he gets tied back up. Now we both are in the same position, and we both are committed to this drama, right?
And we're laughing, but guess what? If we pass a bill,
right,
goes into a law, you all should just start marching on to the doctor to get yourself neutered.
Right. Get you a sterilization shot.
Right.
Get you some saltpeter, whatever it is, until you no longer have a desire to have sex.
Me and Crystal run for president.
Right. We don't enforce that.
then I'll just
That would
take
be
the next
Project
plane out of
2030.
here.
Project 2030. Male sterilization.
Male sterilization.
And then
'Cause
hopefully people say, well, is it really true? We'll be like, okay, maybe not.
yeah. So
Shout out.
and that's what we're
You're
talking
in
about. So abortion is not on the woman. It is the protection of the woman. And she has a right to her own body. It's her body. Just like you have a right to present yourself from being neutered.
Well, the reality is we've seen it already. History has already proven whether you write, I mean, what's going to happen is, like you said, women are going to die. Women are going to commit acts in desperation that will
Right.
risk their life. They will bring the hanger back and other objects, and
Baby girls 10 years of age will be having babies.
And they will damage their uterus. They will damage themselves. They will bleed to death in bathrooms. We've already seen this happen. We've
Yeah, it's
already
not.
seen history prove that women will kill themselves. Some women will kill themselves before they have a baby. They will take drugs. They
Yeah.
will overdose. They will throw themselves downstairs, and they will stick hangers inside their bodies and kill themselves.
Right, exactly.
This is a fact.
We've already seen it. It's already been there. This is a repeated. So, and then on the other side of that, let's talk about countries.
Hold on, before you do that, let's shout out our favorite procurement practitioner, Tasha Higgins.
All right,
Miss Tasha
Hey,
Higgins.
Miss Tasha.
She said, "Watch the wave; it can happen again."
Right, talking about the Holocaust that took place. Yeah,
So
the
that's
education.
why we're paying attention here, Tasha. We're making sure we get the message out there so folks recognize what Title 7 is all about. And we don't want to lose that because it covers so many different areas. My co-host just put in the chat some of the affects of Project 2025. You know, he's talked about the civil rights, you know, what's included. And this is what they call the rollback initiative. Okay. It's called the 2025 is a rollback initiative, and you know we got to really pay attention to it, read up on it, understand what it's about, and we don't want, you know, like you say, Tasha, we don't want it to happen again. We don't want this wave to happen again. We saw it in 2020, right? 2020 wasn't an accident. Just remember this, guys. If any of you know much about history, then you know about the Tuskegee experiments. You remember that? When they injected syphilis in all the black men just to experiment with us to see what effects it had on us, and it killed a lot of us. And you know, hey, I'm not saying I have no direct evidence that the pandemic that occurred in 2020 was the same, but it was similar. So Project 25 could be a repeat of whatever was going on back in the early 60s and 50s and 40s.
Right. And I'm going to also say if we need examples of what countries look like without civil rights, and these are countries that people can't immigrate to the United States, they can't leave their own country. But the people that are leaving their country in Venezuela and some of those other countries, they're leaving because of the fact there are no civil rights for them. But Afghanistan, if you go and look and read and do your research on Afghanistan, you as a citizen of Afghanistan have absolutely no rights whatsoever. You're at the complete mercy of the government. I was watching a movie recently.
Russia is one of them too.
Russia
right?
is one. North Korea is one. Carter is one. Vietnam is one. Burma, China, Cuba, Eritrea, India, Iran, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Pakistan, and Russia. So those are countries.
Cambodia too.
Yeah, so that's part of Vietnam. That is countries that have no rights, no civil rights that protect their citizens. They are at complete mercy of their government. Now, if you require being led around by another human being and you're okay with that, then more power to you. But most of us, I have a hard time with authority myself. So I am not one to be led around by nobody. I am not one.
Also, you're a West African. Remember that.
I have a hard time with that one.
I just want to remind everyone that the only reason we do have these rights is for the numerous civil wars and wars that were fought over the
Yes.
history of America. I mean, this again, I cannot say enough that our ancestors fought for these rights. I don't know
Yes.
how else to say it.
Right. I mean, they weren't there originally. They came because of struggle. And so we worked hard for those. So to arbitrarily just to give them up because somebody has some whim that they want to be a dictator, I'm sorry. And I also wanted to be very clear because I've had some conversations. People saying there's no way they can do that because of the Constitution. Well, let me see. If you're going to be a dictator, that means they're going to eliminate the Constitution. Come on now.
I mean, think about when has the Constitution protected women and people of color from illegal practices?
Yes. So the Constitution doesn't help you. So don't use that thing that's going to protect you because that's not.
It wasn't really written for us. It was written.
Well, no, because we're in it written as three-fifths of a man.
That's the only part that relates to us.
And that's just not how the legal process works.
Right, exactly.
Constitution. You go to state law, federal law, there's different courts of appeal. Like that's not how it works. And so again, educate yourself. And how many of us have family members that are in prison? The Constitution really didn't help them get out of prison.
Exactly.
We learn later.
And even in your space, Dr. Thatch, is, HR, California probably has more laws than any other state when it comes to, because my girlfriend is in HR and she calls it the Republic of California because the employees are they're always in the right. They're the primary beneficiary. But not to say that the employer is not trying to do everything they can and dumping huge amounts of dollars to prevent that from happening. But that's California. Anywhere else in this country, people have a hard time with employment law. And generally, they lose those cases. And it can be drastic. People that work in mining and agriculture and things like that, they lose a limb or whatever. They're not protected. So we just
what do those people have in common that you just mentioned?
Poverty.
There you go.
Yeah. Poverty.
So you have a good lawyer, and sometimes not being educated to resources. So that's why we're here. And so they're covered by some of the same federal and state laws. They just don't know their rights. I talk to people all the time. I have one service where I help employees across the nation just kind of maneuver through their work situations. So I have a product called Mrs. HR in a Box, and I'm Mrs. HR by night. By day, I'm Thela Thatch, and by night, I'm Mrs. HR.
Yeah, okay.
I try to help people. Like how I had one gentleman call me, and he had a workers' comp claim that's been going on for 2 years, and they're trying to blame him for the incident, saying he had a pre-existing condition. Ooh. Short version, workers' comp is a no-fault law.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
So
wow.
Workers' comp insurance is designed for you to have protection under the law. So if you don't know that, you're going to let the employer just drag you along. But here, guess what? Once it happens, and once people realize that the employer was at fault, now there's going to be heavy penalties.
Yeah.
They're going to have to pay a large lawsuit eventually. So I'm not, a lot of times people think I'm pushing just for the employee, or pushing just for people of color. By making sure we have equity on both sides, we're protecting business, period, because these businesses are subject to these laws. Either way, it's going to catch up to you. You're going to have to pay for a workers' comp claim that is your responsibility. As simple as that.
You know what?
Tell the employee that, oh, no, we're not responsible. Eventually, you will have to pay.
You know what's amazing, doctor?
What?
Most HR consultants and practitioners, they lean more towards the employer because they're the ones paying them. That's right. What I noticed different with you and Tana Sessions is that both of you speak you speak as an advocate for the employee, which I really love, because to me that's what HR should be all about: the employee, the protection and safety and safeguard of the employees. But most HR practitioners, they're supporting the employer.
Well, let me be super clear before we run out of time. It is not us against them. It's a symbiotic relationship. And if you're an advocate for the employee, you're an advocate for the employer.
Exactly.
You now have employees who want to come to work, who are treated fairly. You now have an organization who may not be have to pay millions of dollars and fines and penalties because they're being sued for harassment, for discrimination, for workers' comp claims that aren't paid, for overtime. It is beneficial for both the employer and the employee. Right. However, in order, the way Thela and I, Dr. Thela is a close colleague and friend of mine, the way we go from the East Coast, but the way we see it is it's going to be beneficial to both the employer and the employee.
Right.
Because you need to lay down a strong HR foundation based on equitable practices.
Right.
If you're following your policies and you're following the law, then employees are going to be fine. They just need to know what is expected of them and that you're going to treat them equitably and fairly.
And what are the guidelines? What are the guardrails that they need to guide them along?
So if you're an employer and you're not doing that, you're putting the entire company at risk. And as a small business, if you're 2 people or 50 people, you will go out of business with one lawsuit. It will take you out. So it may seem like we're leaning towards the employee. However, it is important that we are advocates because the employee has a lot to say. The employee is important. The employee is the meat and potatoes of your company.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. I mean,
corporation. Yeah.
You need to respect.
That's always blown me away that without the employee, I mean, all of us that are solopreneurs and have started your business is just them, and you're wearing all the hats. Your whole aspiration is to get to a place one day where you can hire people so that you don't have to do everything from the CEO down to the janitor, right? You want to be able to hire those other people. But then you get them and you're like, okay, now we got to treat them bad. Wait, but they're helping you make money. Without them, you can't scale your business without an employee. They're your human asset, your human capital are your employees, and it behooves you to treat them right because they're the ones that's helping you grow your business. And if they are enjoying what they do, then they're going to do their best job. But it seems like there's like this, what part of this don't you get once you leave being an entrepreneur and go into being a small business owner? All of a sudden your employees are dispendable? No, I think not.
Well, I'm just gonna, since we've been talking about everything under the sun, I'm just gonna say, because I talk about it in my book, that's the remnants of the plantation mentality that we have adopted in the United States, where I am the overseer and you're the worker.
Yeah.
That's some of the old kind of things that when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, these are the things that we're trying to dismantle, because these things still do exist, where we have people in positions of power who abuse that power. And this is why we see this in the workplace. And sometimes it's us. I'm gonna be honest. I teach courses all the time. I'm like, are you the one abusing the power? It's not always, it's us. It's like, well, back in my day, I had to do this. I only got $5. You know what? We're not in your day. We're in a new day. And so ask yourself, ask yourself, is it you? Are you the problem?
Are you the problem? But you're so right. I tell the story when I made the immersion into entrepreneurship on a full-time basis. I actually one day I was the employee of my employer, and then the next day I was a contractor for that same employee. The respect went up like 100% from when I was employee to contractor and consultant, and I was doing the exact same thing. It was just like, wow, okay. So for me, that was the incentive never to be the employee, to be the contractor.
That's sad, but I've experienced the same thing.
Yeah.
And, so that's why I work really hard to focus on employee benefits, treating employees with respect. We need them. We need their work, and eventually one day maybe they'll be someone's employer. And so practicing these good best practices around civility. I have webinars, I talk a lot about civility. The lack of civility costs organizations millions of dollars. That's even before you get to a lawsuit. Just people being rude, people hating their managers. They're just sitting there. They're not doing anything. They're not even doing their work anymore. They're sitting here watching Netflix because they hate you.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Now, Dr. Thatch, I know we talked about some diversity things.
Yes.
And I just want to know some of the other diversity, because your book is Diversity Dilemma, right?
Yes.
So hold it up so they can see it. Hold it up. Guys, you run to the store and get this book. This book is amazing. It's a top 5 seller on Amazon, correct?
Well, it's not top 5 anymore. It's now in the 200s, but out of millions of books, I think top 224 today, but it's been in the top 100 for a few months.
Tell us a little bit more about some of those diversity dilemma that you talk about in your book.
Thank you. So one of the biggest dilemmas, honestly, is we're having this conversation. It's really heavy. And what I found is it's very difficult to be effective when you're not taking care of your own mental wellness and your own mental health. Right. We can be consumed with the media, with the news, consumed with
right.
And what I found when I am doing equity work is one of the biggest things we can do. And again, this is from Tricia Hersey, who her book is called Rest is Resistance. Rest is resistance.
Oh.
Something, again, it comes from this plantation mentality where we were, as Black people don't want to hear this, we were an experiment for a capitalist society. How hard can we work their bodies before they drop dead in this field? Can we work them from 5 to 8? Can we work them from 5 to 9? How much can the human body withstand?
Mm-hmm.
And so the best thing we can do when we talk about equity and inclusion is take care of our minds and our bodies so we can be in this fight, because the fight will never end. We will always be fighting for justice. I'm sorry to tell y'all. We will always be fighting for inclusion. We will always be fighting for the next generation to have, that level of equity. And so that's what my book is about. Ultimately, it's a survival's guide. So it's called A Survival Guide for Diversity and Inclusion Good Doers. Because what happens is we get put into these roles, like I was put into numerous roles like this, and you're exhausted.
Yeah.
You're sick. Your family is sick. You're not taking care of yourself. You're not even able to have a intellectual or common sense conversation with the people who are trying to debate the need for equity and equality, because you're worn out. You just you can't even have it. At one point, I couldn't even talk about it anymore. I just said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. And so the number one thing we can do, and what I talk about in the diversity dilemma, one big dilemma is women and people of color who are fighting for diversity. There's some Black men in the fight. Y'all there, but it's mostly women, people of color, and queer people that are on the front line.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
We're tired.
Yeah,
we're tired.
You're absolutely right. And I remember the one time I did work in an environment, and I recognized it early on, and I quit because I just couldn't. It was like a dark cloud, and I could feel it, and it was uncomfortable, and I had to quit. It just was too much for me. And so but I was young. I had, during this time you could quit a job on Monday and have a new one or quit a job on Friday and have a new one on Monday. And it was much easier. Today, I understand, living you got much more responsibilities, and you have to really think that through. So sometimes you literally have to suffer through this, and it really takes a toll on a person's self-respect, their dignity, their confidence in themselves, everything. It just diminishes you. You're diminished of Dr. Joy DeGrule. Yeah, Dr. Joy DeGrule is amazing.
Yeah, that's the
That's
lady that I was talking about. So I
there's
put the
another
link.
lady that's as well that is just as well great as she is. She wrote a book on white people that are racist, and she's white, and she goes through and she's talking to them. She ain't talking to us. She's talking to
Yeah,
them. But it's very hard to operate under those type of. I don't like I said. To be quite honest, I don't know how our ancestors lived through that.
yeah,
I really don't.
right.
God had a special place for them, and I know that means that there's some overcoming that's going to take place. But for them to do what they did, and for us to be sitting here having this conversation today,
Mm-hmm.
that was a feat beyond human abilities, actually. Because
I think they were thinking towards the next generation. That's why they did.
they had to, but just like Dr. Thatch said, they were seeing just how every diabolical thought process to do to another human being was done to our ancestors, from breaking their bodies down to breaking them mentally down to disrespect them in men before their women, to break it was just like, what is the problem here?
And that's what this lady, Dr. Joy DeGroy, said, and that echoes exactly what Dr. Thatch just said, that we were and still are an experiment. We will always be an experiment. It was just more gruesome back then, remember I talked about how they would take a baby, a little 4-month-old, and then they'll take a tool, a device like an ice pick, and just puncture the skull of that baby just to see how much pain tolerance the baby would take. And no one talks about that. She talks about it in her speeches. It's just horrible.
Throwing children in South Carolina with the alligators, throwing children. It was just it was a fun thing. Hanging people to have a picnic. That's what picnic actually means. Having it's just these are devil people. If I was super religious, that's what you'd say, is that whole, how do you even wrap your brain around to come up with some of the most atrocious acts that one can commit on another man, and that's what they are. So to that fact, and we're going to round this conversation out, and it's been absolutely excellent. I am actually getting ready to buy your book soon as I get off the air.
Let's see if Dr. Thatch has a final word. Dr.
Yes.
Thatch?
Oh, I'm reading the comment.
Said you idiots don't know that white men were the first slaves.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Carville Life or Carve Life. We really appreciate that information.
But however, we can go read a book and find out exactly who was the first one. So reading is a fundamental choice of life.
When I work in equity and inclusion, I constantly get white men who they get so upset by these conversations where we're really just talking about the facts around the lack of equity and inclusion. There's a lack of health. There's a health disparities that exist where Black women and Black men at this time in the United States are not getting good health care. I personally, I can afford good health care, and I've been to doctors who just totally ignore my signs and symptoms because they have been trained that Black people have a higher tolerance. Why do I know this? Because Black doctors told me this. And so whether you're Black, whether you're white, what we do want to bring to the table is respect for each other's experience. And so this was the thing I was trying to mention before I talk about it in my book is I started to see this phenomena happen where where different people want to argue what equity is.
Yeah.
And they get really upset when you're asking for equity, when you're asking for fairness. I find that really just amazing to me. They'll say things like, well, my grandparents pulled themselves up from their bootstraps. You're just asking for handouts. And that's why I started the conversation saying that I was a part of an affirmative action program. And so, I mean, there's certain people like some of our audience who you may never persuade because they're not able to listen. But for those that I've worked with, there's been different allies who really want to understand the part that they play in making sure we have equitable workplaces, equitable communities, because the reality is they are not.
Right.
I served on the Van Nuys Neighborhood Council as a council person, and I was called every N word under the sun by the 100,000 my neighbors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They will do that because they don't want to hear. They don't want to hear certain things.
I was just trying to help the unhoused people.
Yeah,
I was just trying. I created the very first
exactly, and you're hearing it with Kamala right now.
So, you know,
you're hearing it with Kamala, the disrespect of her name.
Yeah. So
yeah, you're hearing that, and as well as the word DEI hires have become the new N word. You know, they think we don't know that that's what you're saying, but that's what you're saying. Mm-hmm. DEI has become a new insult, and they use it as they would in replace of the N word. So we've been around
and that's
this.
The diversity. No, that's all I'm trying to say is to go back to your original question. That's the diversity dilemma. So as I'm talking about my experience, these facts that have happened in my life, we have people who just, will call us idiots.
Or dismiss it, or
dismiss us and gaslight. So that is the actual dilemma.
Right.
Because they want us to be silent.
Right.
And we cannot. You just cannot. There's a dilemma. You can be silent, but nothing will change.
This is playing out in real time. Mr. Carved Life, I just would like you to know that the link that I put here in the chat from Dr. Joy DeGray, I'd like you to really check out that link because we're not being giving any personal attacks here on this show. What we're trying to do is share information so everyone can understand. Now, you may have a different opinion or version about it, but it does not hurt to get balanced information. You have yours, other people have theirs. Just look at both sides. No one is saying you should agree with us or do anything to that effect. We just want the information out there because it's been suppressed for so long.
Yeah, one of my favorite examples, I know we have to wrap up, is I think about women in general and how we have had to make a seat at the table in corporate America and in different. Do they want us at the table? Does it matter?
Like Crystal and I say, we bring the folding chair to the table.
They don't want you in the folding chair. That folding chair allows me to care for my family. It allows me to put myself in a position of economic security where my children will have an opportunity so they won't have to bring a folding chair. And so they don't have to like my chair. They don't have to like me sitting there, but I want the same opportunity to sit in that same room.
Exactly.
And I do, like you, I do it for our future, for our children that's coming behind us. Because truly, those of us at 60 plus and over, we can just coast right on through, right? We got whatever we have, and hopefully we have our emergency funds in place just in case. But there are those of you out that don't have those lifelines, and so we're doing this for you. We're fighting for you. And so understand that, because you don't want to live in a world where you don't have inclusion. You don't want to live in a world where you don't have civil rights. That is what your parents worked hard for you and worked hard to make sure that you did have those rights. So we can't take that as it's not a frivolous privilege. It is actually something that was been hard earned. And so we have to fight for things that are hard earned. We as Black people fought hard for freedom. We are fighting hard to remain free, even though at every obstacle, people are trying to take away that right that we have. But as God children of God. We all have that right to live free and to be and for equality. It doesn't matter what our outside coat is. It just matters what's in our
I just
heart.
want to make it crystal clear that what we're doing right now is a privilege. When I worked in corporate America, I promise you I'd be fired at 5:30 today.
Yeah, you would have been.
And the good thing about being an entrepreneur is that I get to work with clients who align with my mission.
That are aligned with what you believe in.
Because let me tell you, I'd be so fired. I wouldn't even be off the call yet. And my
a text would be coming in. You're fired.
Tactics was to everything I said when I worked in DEI. It was scripted. I couldn't go off script. I read scripts all the time.
That wasn't true DEI then, huh?
Okay.
I don't think there was. Is there anything? Okay, let me ask this question before. All right, we don't have time because DEI became very popular after George Floyd. Before that, it was there, but all of a sudden, everybody was hiring everybody and changing everybody's title to DEI. Now, DEI is a bad word in most companies. They done lost all their DEI managers. I don't know where they did with them. They lost their titles.
I knew of, true story. They fired all of their DEI, the whole team, 4 people. As soon as George Floyd happened, they hired them all back that same week. The same people.
That's what I'm saying. They fired them the day before, and then that happened. Then they had to hire them back.
Participants and audience, and this is what I talk about in my book. Why did you go back?
Yeah.
What is it about us?
Yeah.
I can't. Why did you go back?
Yeah.
Now let me tell you, those same 4 people are still fired. They were fired again.
Yeah.
They were fired again when the tide changed and went back the other way. Right. I don't know why you go back unless you just really look desperate for that beat down.
I'd like to put this out there, folks. For those of you who are listening, those of you who are tuning into this, and this is great. I'm loving this discussion that we're having here, this crosstalk with our guest, Dr. Thela Thatch, and my co-host, Crystal Mitchell, Superwoman, and I, the small business paramedic. I just want to put this out there, guys. There's one thing that all 3 of us have in common, and that's we're all entrepreneurs. Now, whether we're speaking about the inequities of minorities, blacks, whatever, I want to put this out there. This group is not the only group that will be impacted by Project 2025, guys. I just want you to know that if you are an entrepreneur, small business, you will be impacted that way as well. I just want you to know small businesses usually don't get many opportunities when it comes to funding, lines of credits, loans, those types of things. They don't consider small businesses. And it doesn't just mean minority small business. We're talking about small business, all ethnic group and all ethnic stripes, okay? You don't get funding. You don't get contract opportunities. And if you do get some contract opportunities, they will give the bulk of it to the prime or their friends. And you're lucky if you get any scraps of opportunity in terms of subcontracting opportunities. So we're talking big here. This is a more global discussion we're having here. This is not a centralized type discussion we're having. I mean, some of you in the chat may be feeling personal things right now, like one of our viewers here who has been very disrespected to us. But that's okay. That's okay. We expect that because as small businesses, we have to build up courage. We have to be strong because we understand there's a lot of hurdles that we're going to have to cross. So we don't listen to those little voices making noise, those little cricket sounds, like you said. He said it's getting deep. Yes, it's getting deep. So we just want you to know that as entrepreneurs who are trying to get contract opportunities, trying to get business opportunities, trying to get funding, there's one part, co-host, one part of this Project 25 that we didn't touch, and we might touch it next week, is redlining. Redlining is a big part of Project 2025.
Well, we kind of did talk about that in that first one, so I'll run that one back again. But yeah, no, we did talk. I kind of covered the top 10 points of Project 25 that was pretty devastating.
Yeah.
But I just want to thank Dr. Thatch for being.
Oh, for sure, man. For sure.
It's been awesome. Can you put your information in the private chat, and then Gilbert would put it, how to go buy your book or go to your website, because you're awesome. And so we want to follow you, and we'd love for you to come back at any given point in time. Mr. Carvel Life, I was raised with a father and without a father, had nothing to do with how successful I am today, because I had internal motivation to move me forward. And I got a hell of a grandmother that lives within my soul and a mama. So we can't use those things as crutches for our lives. But I get it, dude. I get it. But we do wish you the best in life.
Today is my husband's birthday, and he is an amazing Black male.
Hey, man. Happy birthday, Mr. Thatch.
So thank you, Carvel.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, my children made it because they had a father in their life too. So
right. So wow, it's cool for all those daddies. Good job. But we want to thank you so much. Gilbert, can you, because for whatever reason I'm kind of stuck over here. I can. Did you put your email? Oh, I'm back now. Your not your email, your website.
Yeah, I'll put it in here. And also, I want to say shout out again, man, to Miss Higgins for being here on the show. She's, like I said, she's one of the premier procurement practitioners in this state. So want to thank you again for watching the show, participating here. Okay, this is great. I really, really appreciate you, Tasha. Tasha has been one of a friend of the show for the longest time. And
actually, I've taught all her children how to be entrepreneurs. Exactly. We all family. But I just want to tell Dr. Thatch, this has been an awesome conversation.
Yes.
And I'm glad you are independent so you can speak your mind. Yes. I'm going to buy your book soon as I get off air. Yes. But we have to keep having these conversations. It's so very important that we have these conversations, and then to encourage people to go read. Reading is a vital skill set. And it's very easy for you to go out there and go anywhere on the internet. And there's some safe spots. If you really need to know, there's some safe spots to go that's going to give you valuable information. I can do that. So you can go over to our Facebook page or over to our YouTube page, and you can, Gilbert, can you take her thing and put it over there for whatever reason? My computer.
I just did.
Okay, thanks.
And Tasha is waving.
All right, wave. And in fact, this podcast wouldn't happen if we didn't have the freedom and the civil rights that we have to have this conversation. Right. So we will continue to have these honest conversations with these amazing guests. Dr. Thatch, have a great evening tonight with your husband celebrating his birthday. Yes. Tell him we all wish him many, many more. All righty, guys.
And
so we
really want you to come back, because we want to delve more into your book, Diversity Dilemma, and all the other great things you've been doing. Tasha Higgins, man, you are a star of our show, as you know, all the time. So don't hesitate to come back and support us. And Dr. Delay.
And Mr. Carvel Life, you can come on back over here. You'll learn a whole lot. Go over to our YouTube channel. Man, there's over 800 videos over there that is talking about everything to do with business and how to grow in business, how to be successful, how to make money. So go on over there and take a look. It will enlighten your whole entire life. Share it and come back again. We have no problem with controversy, because we got We're knowledgeable.
We deal with this all the time, man. We deal with this all the time. So, Mr. Carve Life, we know you're not an entrepreneur because you wouldn't be speaking the way you are. Because entrepreneurs, we're a special breed, and we go through certain types of challenges, and that's what prepare us for this entrepreneurial journey that we're on right now. So, if you want to come back, share some of the wisdom you've gathered since today's show, we'll accept you. We'll welcome you. Okay.
Awesome. Awesome.
Doctor, do you want to say anything before you go?
I just want to encourage small businesses to make sure that they don't neglect their human resources function. So please reach out to me to get basic things like employee handbooks, job descriptions. Trust me, you will need to know how to manage humans if you want to be successful. You cannot go it alone. Yes. So I'm here for all of that, for human resources, benefits, and equity. And please just reach out to me. The first half an hour is free.
Yes.
Awesome. So go over there. So before we close the show, Gilbert, the Alliance of Reparations, Reconciliation, and Truth, ARRT, Governor Newsom has just signed Assembly Bill 3089, acknowledging and apologizing for the state of California for its role enforced in